I'm Joe Lample. When I created Growing a Greener World, I had one goal: to tell stories of everyday people, innovators, entrepreneurs, forward-thinking leaders who are all, in ways both big and small, dedicated to organic gardening and farming, lightening our footprint, conserving vital resources, protecting natural habitats, making a tangible difference for us all. They're real, they're passionate, they're all around us. They're the game changers who are literally growing a greener world and inspiring the rest of us to do the same. Growing a Greener World, it's more than a movement, it's our mission. Believe it or not, mosses are the oldest terrestrial plants on Earth, predating even dinosaurs. And they've survived all of that time without pollen, seeds, flowers, or even roots. And that may be the key, because they get all of their nutrients and their moisture through their leaves, making them simple, durable plants that are sustainable, drought tolerant, and eco-friendly. And collectively, mosses offset more carbon than all of the trees in the world combined. Now that is green. David Spain and Ken Gergel of Moss and Stone Gardens know the virtues of moss better than just about anyone. They became fascinated with moss over 12 years ago and began designing and installing moss-covered landscapes in, of all places, Raleigh, North Carolina. Today, Moss and Stone Gardens is still the only moss nursery in the entire United States. But David and Ken are on a mission to spread the word on the virtues of these unique plants and show how they're perfect for today's more sustainable landscapes.
I think mosses have been so overlooked, but we just take it for granted. Moss has been around for 450 million years. It's the first plant ever. We don't recognize it for all its uses, all the ways we can put it to use in our garden. There's so many, and once you see a cultivated garden and you see what can be done with mosses, the light bulb goes off. Then you're like, that's their place. That's where they fit. It's no longer a weed. It's something you want in your garden, something to work with. Mosses really do grow prolifically in areas like the Pacific Northwest, Maine, and other areas. But what we've discovered is that moss can be encouraged to grow in any zone in America. All it takes is the right techniques. It really comes down just to watering. If you can water your mosses to get them established, then they're there for good. People always ask me, is moss easy to take care of? And I'm happy to tell them it is the ultimate low maintenance plant. All we need to do is get it established, tend to it until it gets to that point, and then it's easy living from then on. They're drought tolerant, so it's not true that it has to be in a moist condition like Seattle. Mosses, the unique thing about them is without a root structure, they don't have a need for soil or nutrients from soil. They can grow on wood, on stone, even concrete. I mean, this makes them unique and very adaptable to almost any situation. We can encourage that growth and just do things that you can't do with any other plant. Mosses don't get their nutrients the same way as other plants. It's not derived from their roots and from the soil. It's from the atmosphere. It's from rainfall and from sunlight, photosynthesis. So such a simple plant with simple needs makes it adaptable to all conditions. Another unique thing about mosses is during times of drought, they can go into dormancy. When mosses are dry, they go dormant quickly. When the rains return, they come out of dormancy. This is unique, of course, not like any other plant. My passion for moss was the first time that I saw it in a cultivated garden. that beautiful, green, blissful, verdant carpet, and I went, wow, aha, that was my moment. Just like for many other people, when you see that the first time, you say, I've got to have that in my garden. This is something that really is unique, and I'm crazy about it.
David, talk about some of the most popular applications for moss in the home landscape or garden.
Well, in the shade, you can say moss is boss, and if you want a lawn there, that's a great application. Now, if you do have part sun or even full sun, there are a few mosses that'll work for that as well.
Excellent, but shade, really, when you're trying to establish a lawn in the shade, I know that's one of the biggest frustrations for homeowners because they never seem to get it established, and when they do, they're always battling to keep it looking good. So that's a big plus, the moss.
That's
now
right.
Talk to me about the watering.
Well, a traditional lawn may use 10,000 gallons a year just to keep it going, whereas moss is a fraction of that.
Excellent, even better. And then there's the no fertilizing and the no mowing, right?
That you can't beat that. Who wouldn't like that? Yeah, another great use for mosses in the garden is as a mulch alternative. It has a lot of the same properties. Moisture retention, it helps to build the soil. Another great thing, of course, is if you've got perennials, as they go dormant in the winter, the moss is still green, you can still enjoy it in the winter.
And it helps retain the soil there. And I imagine with the thick coverage of the mulch that it does a great job at suppressing weeds too.
Exactly, that's another great benefit that it has. Mosses are very versatile in the garden as a focal feature. There's so many uses, any number of ways we can experiment, and mosses help draw the eye and they can unify an area. Just great.
Now, David, there are a lot of weekend warriors out there that love their traditional grass lawn. And so they have this beautiful carpet of green, and then they have this one area where the grass won't grow, but the moss is really taking off. And yet, they spend a lot of time trying to kill the moss to promote the grass, and that battle never works out. So what is that telling us?
Well, the conditions probably are difficult for the grass. They're better for the moss. Mother Nature's telling us that. I say work with her, not against her.
Okay, so embrace the moss, and if we do that, how long is it going to take? Because, we like that full coverage.
Sure. Any number of conditions can change those factors, but if you water, if you provide some frequent misting, you're going to speed that process up. Almost any area can be covered in 1 to 2 years.
So you can have both. It doesn't mean you have to have all green grass lawn or all moss. You can have some of both, but at least you can get all green. So you might be thinking it would be a great idea to harvest moss from the wild, like maybe a national forest. But can you even do that? Well, for a national forest, the answer is no, because it's illegal to do so there. But another great source is a piece of private property, like a development that's about to be cleared. That could be a gold mine, but the key is you have to get permission first. But when you do harvest moss, it's a really simple process. But you only want to take a little bit from those areas that aren't going to be completely cleared because you don't want to devastate the landscape. And moss takes a pretty long time to grow back. To harvest upright growing moss, use a spatula or flat-bladed hand tool under the colony and collect it with a thin layer of soil. For more creeping moss, you can scoop up the moss with a small scoop of the soil that's attached so that it doesn't fall apart. With either case, try to be as gentle as possible. So you have your moss, and now you want to plant it so that it gets off to a good start and then that it spreads after that. Well, as it turns out, it's a pretty easy process, and all you really need to do to get started is a good shady spot and a little bit of patience. Okay, David, I have some mosses for you. Show us how to get them planted properly and off to a fast start.
Not a problem. All we're going to do is just clear our area here. First, we want a clean palette, get all the debris, leaves, anything out of the way, and we'll scratch the soil a little bit just to loosen it so we can make good contact with moss.
Okay.
All right, easy as that.
All right.
Now we've got two types of moss here. We've got acrocarps. These are the mounding, upright growing, and slower growing mosses, which also prefer to dry out regularly.
Okay.
All right, these can be planted, if they're palm sized, We can tuck these right in as they are. If they're larger pieces, we can split them into two and maximize what we've got. This way we're propagating.
Okay.
All right, if we tuck these into these little areas up by these roots here, then they've got a little safer place, a little easier time to get established, right?
Okay.
Okay. With the pleurocarps, we can also break these down into smaller pieces.
Now, what are pleurocarps? What's the difference?
All right, as pleurocarps, these are the prostrate, the horizontal running mosses. They prefer more moisture. Consistent moisture is fine, and they attach quicker, they spread faster. They're a really good moss to work with in the garden.
Great.
So with these, we can break them into smaller pieces because we know they're going to grow faster, and space them out equal distances from the size that you've broken it down into. So if it's a large piece like this, you can put it the next piece over next to it. If you break them smaller pieces, a little bit tighter pattern, all right?
But you can break this up even more and spread it out.
That's
more
right.
quickly.
We can continue to propagate this just by breaking it up and spreading it out.
Now, how long is it going to take before they're established, and when do you know that that happens?
Right. Well, establishment is going to happen after the rhizomes is anchored. In this case, the pleurocarps will probably reestablish in 3 to 6 months. The acrocarps, they're going to reestablish in 6 months to a year. Establishment is just a matter of the moss acclimating to its new location and putting new rhizomes. Rhizomes are what's going to anchor it in place and keep it there. So once it gets its anchors back into the soil, it'll start leafy growth again.
Now, do you press it down to get good contact with
Right.
the soil?
Once we've placed, spread it out, we not only want to press them in firmly, it helps if you'll water them.
Okay.
Give them a nice drenching with water, and then we can press them in firmly. And we also want to smooth the soil around them, so as they spread out, they've got a nice, clean, even surface to run onto.
And just keep them watered along the way?
That's right. What you want to start off with a good watering regimen. For the first 2 or 3 months, you want to water them frequently.
Okay.
Daily if you can. If not, every other day is fine. After that, you can let Mother Nature take over.
I like that. Now that you know how to collect and propagate your moss, you're ready to use it as a design element in your garden. When you first start with moss gardening, you might want to start with a little corner of your garden and build it out from there. Starting out small allows you to learn how the moss adapts to your garden and microclimate. Plus, it's much easier to establish moss a few feet at a time, instead of your entire backyard. You can always expand and add more as you go. One way to use moss is a Zen garden. It only requires a few elements to complete. The moss is combined with wood or stone and a featured element like a statue or fountain. It's a simple design that creates a tranquil and calming garden. You can also use moss to create a natural-looking garden that appears to have sprung up from the forest floor. This look combines the moss with a few simple plants and stones. In this type of garden, there aren't any man-made elements, and the finished design offers another relaxing setting. But the easiest way to use moss is simply to add it to your existing landscape. It can be used between stepping stones or tucked around existing rocks and trees. And moss is especially effective near a water feature. No matter how you use moss in your garden, all that's needed is a little bit of patience as it gets established. And after that, it does pretty well on its own. Now I realize we all don't have a big backyard to start our moss garden, but you know what? Starting small isn't a bad thing either. So how about a container moss garden like this from David's place? Now this works great for a deck or patio or even a front stoop. And the container can be anything you want, like this nice piece of ceramic, all the way down to something inexpensive like this that you can get at any garden center for $1 or $2. These are the ones that go underneath those big plastic pots. Well, you know what? This also makes a great container for our moss garden. So let's just go ahead and plant one of these out. Now, no matter what container you use, the most important thing is that it has drainage in it, because unlike any other plant, moss doesn't have roots to suck up that extra moisture, and you don't want the moss sitting in damp soil for too long. Now, the next thing you need to do once you pick your container is to cover those drainage holes with some fabric. Now, that allows the water to go through if you use the right fabric, like this landscape fabric, but it keeps the soil medium in. Now this was just cut to size, and you can find this at any garden center as well, but you know what else works just as easily? Coffee filters, and who doesn't have those around the house? But once you cover this area, the next thing you need to do is put some gravel in to actually help with the drainage even a little bit more. So we've selected a gravel for that. And you just cover it up. You just pour it over the fabric or the coffee filters until it's covered, and then it's time to add the potting medium. Whatever potting medium you choose, it's most important that it be a well-draining mixture. Spread out the potting soil and level it with your hands. Start with your biggest elements like a large piece of wood or stone and place it there first. As you place other stones in the container, be sure to press them down slightly into the soil so that they're partially buried and have a natural look. Then just start tucking in your moss. As you place each piece, press it down firmly. Next, you can add various small plants. Just gently tuck them down into the soil. It's nice to have plants with different leaves and textures, but keep them all about the same size in your miniature landscape. If you find that you have soil on the leaves of your plants or the moss, just give the container a misting with water as you work. Continue adding various mosses and plants until you have the entire container filled in as you like. By including different mosses with varying shades of green, you can create a lot of added interest. When you're all done, give the entire container a good misting with water and keep it moist for the first few months until the moss is well established. If you'd like, you can add some gravel or small stones on top of any exposed soil to keep it from washing away and also to add to the overall look of the garden. A container like this does best outdoors, but can be brought inside for short periods of time or for special occasions. And with proper care, it should give you years of enjoyment. Whether you're looking for ways to green up your garden or just a deck or patio with a simple moss rock like this, or create a more sustainable, low-maintenance landscape, moss could just be the answer for you. And we have a lot more information on our website under the show notes for this episode. And the address, it's the same as our name. It's growingagreenerworld.com. Now you can also watch all of our past episodes there online as well, including this one, and so much more than that. I'm Joe Lample. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here next time for more Growing a Greener World.